Hello, welcome to another episode of Hello Sleep. I'm very, very excited to have you here. I'm ever so grateful that you've chosen to click on this and watch it for whatever reason. But I'm definitely want to promise you that I share actionable tips so that you can reclaim your nights, your naps, and your sanity. And we're going to do that together by transforming your baby's sleep habits. So I don't think you're going to regret spending this time with me. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the role of health in sleep. And I'm also going to be sharing with you my biggest mistake as a sleep consultant, which I'm embarrassed to be talking about, but it is a very important topic. And stick around if you want to find out.
Hello, it's Brianna, your trusted baby sleep expert. I've had the honour and privilege of helping over 200 families now reclaim their nights, their naps, and their sanity. My passion for sleep was birthed out of when our eldest was a baby and we really struggled with her sleep. But when we sought help and got our sleep transformation, it pulled me out of a really dark place. Now, all I want to do is help other families escape sleep deprivation too.
So I want to start this episode by getting you to think back on a time where you were sick. Okay. Maybe when you had a cough or like a cold or the flu or body aches or headache or anything like that. How did you sleep on those nights? So I know there was a time, I think it might have been a month ago, and I just had a headache. It took me ages to get to sleep. And then I had very broken sleep that night. We had no Panadol in the house. And so I just kept waking up from that headache. And it was a nightmare because then your thoughts start racing and all of this stuff. Anyway, my sleep was very broken. And it wasn't because of my kids, it was because I had that killer headache. If your baby is sick, then it's only natural for their sleep to be disturbed. Okay? So when I work with a client, we identify current issues and we work out the goals. And then the very first thing I do is like a bit of a health check. And we go over if there's any medical concerns or if there are any weight gain issues. And I ask a couple of very important questions, which I'll share with you later in the episode. But essentially, what I'm doing is I'm prioritizing health because if a baby is unhealthy, if something is wrong, then like if there's an underlying medical reason for them not sleeping, then no matter what we do on the other layers, it's not going to work because we haven't prioritized health first. So it's the first step that I go over in my simple sleep success system. And my system is it's basically like a checklist that you can just work through. And it's to create healthy sleep hygiene, like that holistic approach that we discussed in last week's episode. It's to basically, yeah, you can't fail. If you go through and you go through the process, you can't fail. You'll have a baby, a child who sleeps very well. But baby who is sick, whether that be from a condition or whether that be like the cold or the flu, like if it's a condition or whether it's just a short-term temporary illness, it's going to disturb sleep patterns. Okay, so I want to go through, I've done a bit of a list here and I've just got some medical reasons for sleep disturbances. So just so that you can sort of go through that in your mind and pinpoint where, like what could be the cause of your child's sleep issue. So some medical causes for sleep disturbances are, I guess the big obvious one is sleep disorders. So that's things like sleep apnea, REM sleep behavior disorder, periodic limb movement disorder, narcolepsy, insomnia, sleep paralysis. There's also delayed sleep phase syndrome, and there's a few others as well. So there's quite a few that fall under like sleep disorders, but they are a big one. And then the other things on my list are things like autism and ADHD, ear infections, anxiety in older children, like toddler preschoolers, probably more so preschoolers, but toddlers too. Uh, ear infections. Oh, I said that. Poor feeding in the day, which could be for many reasons, could be tongue lip tie or whatever, but it leads to nighttime feeds being necessary if they're not getting the adequate feeds in the daytime. There could be leg braces or other contraptions, restless leg syndrome for toddlers and up. It could be poop, so frequent stools at night, which there could be a range of causes for that. It could be a short-term thing or a long-term condition. Another is enlarged tonsils or adenoids, cerebral palsy, glue ear, reflux, iron deficiency. So, an iron deficiency, which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. I've got an episode lined up where we're going to talk about food and the impact it has on sleep. But yeah, iron deficiency, it has the opposite effect in children as it does in adults. So, where adults, an iron deficiency would cause us to be sleepy and feel tired, in children it has the opposite effect and causes them to feel more that they are more wakeful. Another medical conditions are things like food allergies, which can often go undiagnosed as well. And then there's things like virus, cold, or anything that stuffs them up nasally. And yeah, or any illness that I'm not obviously going to list out all the illnesses, but one thing you'll notice as I went through that list that I put together is I did not put teething on that list. And a question I often get asked about for teething is like, can I improve my baby's sleep while they're teething? Or my baby won't, they'll just say that the cause of their baby's sleep struggles is the teething. Whereas I'm under the belief that it's unlikely to be teeth that's waking their child. I don't think it would be the pain from the teething that would be waking them. It's more likely what happens is that they've finished a sleep cycle, the baby's finished a sleep cycle, and then they can't self-settle. And then on top of that, their teeth are annoying them, and then they start to cry for help, and then they want help to get back to sleep, and they get frustrated and they get more tired, and then they start to scream, but they aren't necessarily screaming in pain, they are screaming because they are tired. So what we can do is, if we're trying to work out if it's teething, you can look at their behavior and their temperament throughout the day as well. So if they are quite fussy and irritable throughout the day as well, then it could be teething. But teething is not a nocturnal activity. They're not fine all day and then up all night with teething issues. So teething would usually mean you've got a grumpy baby in the day as well. But any pain that results in a screaming baby needing pain relief is something that a doctor should be made aware of. They need to know about it, because what it is it's actually more likely like an ear infection or a serious illness. So I think teething can, like symptoms can often be just put down to, oh, my baby's teething, whereas actually there could be other things going on in that baby that the parents just think it's teething, but it's actually an infection or something like that. So if you do believe your baby is in discomfort from teething, then you can offer Panadol for sure. If you think that their pain is from teething and that's impacting their sleep, and with a dose of Panadol, if they are fine, then obviously they were in pain because you gave them Panadol and now they're okay. So all right, I will link a couple of I'll link a study and another article that's really helpful read about teething in the show notes for you to have a look at. All right, let's talk about what my biggest mistake as a sleep consultant was. So it was when I was coming back from maternity leave with my fourth child. And so it was with a client, my first client in a long, long, long time. And it was August 2023. And so I was a bit rusty because I'd had time off, and my baby was like 4 months old. So I was also postpartum hormones and all of that stuff. But I what ended up happening, long story short, was I did not investigate the health side of things as thoroughly as I could have or should have. And I started working with this mum and her baby, and we were on day 3 of implementing, and I was noticing more and more red flags. So at our initial consult, we had discussed snoring and, yeah, like this baby's health, and I had addressed it but moved on probably too quickly. And as we were working together, I was seeing more and more red flags pop up, and I said, "Hey, I just expressed that I'm noticing more and more red flags, and I really want this. I really want you to go and get an ENT appointment as soon as you can." And she, yes, I wanted to pause the sleep training and get the baby looked over by an ENT before we continued. And this mum obviously was very upset because I should have picked it up sooner. And I did apologize profusely, and I gave her a refund, and I learnt my lesson big time. And so the question that I never sign a client up now unless I have asked this, and if depending on the answer, I ask more and more and more questions. So I'll pretty early, if you jump in a conversation with me or jump on the phone with me pretty early on, I'm going to ask, is your baby snoring? And is your baby breathing with their mouth open? Because they are two very, very noticeable symptoms that there are underlying reasons of it, like pointing towards a sleep disorder. So I can't believe I missed it. I was so disappointed with myself. I'm the type of person who I want to give every mother a really great experience, and I was horrified that I messed it up. And so, but in saying that, I have learned my lesson, and I now, like, this is why this is episode number 5 in my podcast series, is because this is a very important subject. Okay, like if your baby is snoring or breathing with their mouth open, then please book them into your GP. You can get a recording on your phone of the snoring or breathing with their mouth open, and you can play it back for them, and you can ask for an ENT referral. And that is very, very important so that we can diagnose these issues earlier rather than later. To recap this wonderful episode, we talked about the different medical reasons that could be causing wakefulness in babies. So we went through that really long list of all the different medical reasons for you to look out for, any red flags there that you might need to go and see a GP about if you're struggling with sleep and you think one of those things on the list might, your ears stood up at one of the things on the list, then go to your GP, get it looked at, definitely. And we talked about teething and how it does not often interfere with sleep. It doesn't often disturb sleep. I'm linking a study in the show notes, and another article that's very, very good and scientific is, yeah, they talk about how, there's a period they teeth on and off for 2 years, and there's the period of like when they're cutting could be painful, but it's often the symptoms are pointing to other illnesses or, yeah, for the teething. So we talked about that, and we talked about my biggest mistake as a sleep consultant was not checking thoroughly for medical underlying reasons. And this is why it is the very first thing in my program that we go through is talking about, red flags, what to look out for. And the snoring and breathing with mouth open to go see the GP. So we talked about a lot of things, and it's a very important subject. It's not one I want to rush past. So that's today's episode, and I want to thank you for trusting me with your baby's sleep. I do not take that lightly. It is very important to me that I give you quality support, and it is just my passion to pull mums out of the pit of sleep deprivation. And yeah, I want every mum to experience the hope and joy and freedom and peace of when their baby welcomes sleep instead of pushes it away. So thank you for hanging out with me, and I can't wait to see you again on next week's episode. And remember, if no one is in your corner, or even if there are people in your corner, I still want you to know that I've got you and you've got this. See you next week.